Are you ready? Let's go. Gather round and listen to stories from all over the world, sparking creativity and desire. Stories that will inspire. Come on, sit down. It's the best podcast in town. Professor Panda with story adventures.
Hello, scholars. Welcome. Thank you for joining me on another story adventure. I'm Professor Panda, and today's story adventure, scholars, is a very special one. We have a story adventure with a brave little tailor who has a thirst for a big adventure. Scholars, it's great to see you again. Have you been grateful, scholars? Has it been a hard day, or have you tackled today with enthusiasm? Well, scholars, let's list of 5 good things that happened to us today. I'll go first. Today I got some very important chores done, checked off some items on my checklist, and I spoke with some good friends today, scholars. So I would say it has been a very productive day. Also, scholars, I cannot forget that I got to take a story adventure with you. That is one of the best good things that happened to me today. Well, scholars, I hope good things happen to you, but let's get ready for our story adventure. I hope you're in your proper reading state. I hope that you're sitting in your comfy reading chair and that you are ready for a great story adventure. Well, scholars, adventure waits for no one, so let's go! One morning, a little tailor sat in his shop. He bent over his work, sewing as he always did this time of day. Suddenly, the tailor had a taste for raspberry jelly. He took out a loaf of bread and cut a big slice from it. The tailor licked his lips as he spread on some jelly. "I'm more hungry than I thought," he told himself. "I sure hope this jelly fills my belly and clears my head." The tailor wanted to sew a few more stitches before eating his snack. When finished, he saw a swarm of flies buzzing around his tasty jelly. The little man waved the flies away with his hand, but they flew right back. The tailor grabbed a scrap of cloth and growled, "Now I will let you have it." The cloth burst through the air as the tailor beat the buzzing flies. When he lifted the cloth, 7 flies lay dead on the table. "The whole world should know of my skill," said the tailor. He cut a belt just his size. With his finest thread, he sewed these words, "7 in one blow." The tailor tied the red belt around his waist. "I feel the need for a big adventure," he shouted. The tailor looked for something useful to take with him on his big adventure. All he found was an old piece of cheese. He put it in his pocket, and as he was locking the door, he heard a rustle in the bushes. A bird was trapped among the thorns. The tailor gently pulled the bird from the cloth. He put it in his pocket with the cheese. Then he set off to find adventure. The tailor walked through town and up the side of a mountain. At the top, he met a giant. "Hello, giant," said the tailor with a bow. "I am on a big adventure. Will you join me?" "A little man like you on a big adventure?" rumbled the giant. For an answer, the tailor showed the giant his belt. The giant read the words, 7 in one blow?" The giant, who was not very smart, thought the belt meant 7 men, not flies. He found it very hard to believe that this tiny tailor could kill 7 men with one blow. So he decided to test the man's strength. "You must be very strong. Can you do this?" asked the giant. He picked up a stone and squeezed it until water dripped from the stone. The tailor was obviously not as strong as the giant, but he was much more clever. "Watch this," the little tailor said as he took something from his pocket. The giant thought it was a stone too, but it was actually the piece of cheese. The tailor squeezed it in his hand until liquid whey dripped from his palm. The giant raised his eyebrows. "Well, can you do this?" he asked. He picked up another stone and tossed it high into the air. It flew almost out of sight. "Watch this," the tailor said as he took something from his pocket. It was the bird, of course. With a toss of his hand, the tailor sent the little bird flying. Pretty soon the bird was out of sight. In fact, it never came down. This did not convince the giant, though. He was a poor loser. "If you are so strong, help me carry this tree," the giant ordered. Once again, the tailor knew he was not as strong as the giant. He quickly came up with an idea. The tailor walked to the leafy end of the fallen oak. "I will carry the branches," he said. "I wouldn't want them to scratch you. Besides, it's no trouble for one who can kill 7 at one blow." The giant lifted the tree trunk onto his shoulders. He could not see the tailor at the other end. The tailor knew this. He hopped into the branches and let the giant do all the work. When the giant stopped to rest, the tailor jumped out and pretended to be carrying the leafy end of the tree. When the giant looked back at the tailor, he saw that he was not even tired. "Perhaps you would like to come home with me and meet my friends," the giant said with an evil gleam in his eyes. "Certainly," the clever tailor replied. The giant took the tailor to his cave. A group of giants sat around a roaring fire. They watched as their friend led the little man into the cave. "You can sleep here," said the giant, pointing to a giant-sized bed. "Even a man who can kill 7 in one blow needs his rest." The tailor was not used to sleeping in such a big bed, so he slept in a corner instead. It was good for him that he did. During the night, the giants pounded on the bed with clubs until they thought they had taken care of the pesky tailor. In the morning, the giants went swimming in the river. They joked about the strange man and his silly belt. When the tailor walked up whistling a merry tune, the giants were so afraid they ran away without their clothes. The tailor laughed and left the giants behind. He walked very far and then lay down for a nap. As the tailor slept, some people found him and read his belt. They thought he was a mighty soldier and took him to meet their king. The king was impressed and hired him for his army. He also gave him a bag full of gold. But the other soldiers were angry at this new soldier. "This is not fair," they told the king. "We will leave your army if we do not get a bag full of gold too." The king could not lose his whole army. He decided to get rid of the new soldier. He went to the little man with a challenge. I need you to kill 2 giants that live in my woods. If you do, I will give you my daughter and half of my kingdom as a reward. The tailor knew this was his chance to become a hero. The next morning, the tailor rode off to find the giants with 100 soldiers behind him and a brilliant plan. Stay behind until I call you, he told the soldiers, at the edge of the woods. The tailor found the 2 giants asleep under the tree. He climbed the tree and began dropping acorns on one giant's head. The giant awoke and turned to his friend. Why did you wake me by thumping my head? Roared the giant. Before his friend could answer, the angry giant threw an acorn at him. The 2 giants fought into each other, both fell dead. The tailor called the king's soldiers to see what he had done. They were amazed. The new soldier had not even a scratch. 2 giants are easy. Try 7 in one blow, said the tailor. The king heard about the tailor's great feat, but didn't want to give up his daughter and half his riches yet. He ordered him to catch a unicorn that was scaring the villagers. The tailor agreed to go, but only if he could go alone. The king agreed. So off to the woods the tailor went looking for a unicorn. Suddenly, the tailor turned to see the unicorn running straight for him. He stood perfectly still. Just as the unicorn reached him, the tailor jumped out of the way. He had been standing in front of a tree. The unicorn's horn stuck fast into the tree's hard wood. The tailor freed the unicorn and rode it back to the palace in a cloud of dust. Again, the king was amazed to see the tailor. The king had no choice but to keep his promise. He could not prove that the man who married his daughter and took half his kingdom was nothing but a hero. The tailor almost gave up his secrets one night, though. While he was sleeping, his new wife heard him say, "This new fabric will make a fine waistcoat." The princess leaped out of bed and hid behind a curtain, hoping her husband would reveal more of his true identity. But the clever tailor, wakened by his wife's movement, quickly realized what he had said in his sleep. I mean, a prince and a man who can kill 7 in one blow should have the finest waistcoat around, right? The end. Well, scholars, what did you think of that story adventure? Our friend the tailor had many of events that he experienced once he set out on his big adventure. He met some giants. He even met a king and married a princess. Our friend the tailor was a very ingenuitive and clever man. He used his brain instead of trying to match his physical or mental strengths with other opponents, scholars. So, scholars, what did you think of our story adventure today? Did you enjoy the tailor and his adventure? Do you sympathize with the giant and the king? Or was the tailor too clever for all of them to ever figure him out? I thank you for joining me on my story adventure today. Don't forget that if you want more podcasts and story adventures, you can listen to wherever you get pods. If you want more content, scholars, just join us on our YouTube channel. If you want to support the Story Adventures Scholars, you can always visit our website, pceocentral.com. There's educational material,
reading adventure books, and more. And I'm grateful that you joined me on my story adventures. Until next time, scholars, keep reading.